In some of my previous videos, I was praising the domain management and mass combat rules of ACKS, claiming that it should be relatively easy to adapt some of the ideas to GURPS. However, before doing that, it would be reasonable to actually try out these rules as they are. So in today's video, I'm going to show off an example battle using the Domains at War Battles rule set. The battle happens on a 24 by 18 hex battlefield. I assume that the battle happens in a clear terrain, so I use the accompanying rules for random terrain placement to create a more diverse battlefield. We have some mud, broken terrain, hills and a medium stream that divides the map. This is a battlefield for a straightforward pitched battle. However, there still are some deployment restrictions. Formed foot troops may not be deployed in the flank areas. Foot units and formed mounted units may not be deployed in the wing areas. In Domains at War, each side's army is commanded by a general. Each army is further divided into divisions commanded by commanders. Each division consists of units optionally commanded by lieutenants. I believe that this is an excellent mechanic, as it allows a party of characters to participate in the battle as commanders, instead of one character playing the role of the general and the rest just sitting there and twiddling their thumbs. A typical army consists of 3 to 8 divisions, and each division consists of 3 to 8 units. For this example, I want to go with a minimum, 3 divisions of 3 units each. Thus, each army will have 9 units. I came up with the following roster. Side A will have some dwarves, elves and humans, and side B will have skeletons, ghouls, goblins, zombies and orcs. I didn't use any point buy system for the rosters, I just picked some units from the book's rosters to explore the mechanics. The generals and commanders of both sides are identical. The sequence of play is rather simple. At the start of each round there is the initiative phase, where each commander, not only generals, roll initiatives. This is just 1d6 plus strategic ability, but since all commanders in this example are identical between sides, I will simply give the generals a +1 bonus and have commanders roll without a bonus. This is the sequence for this round. Then each commander in the initiative order gets a command phase, where he gets a number of activation points equal to his leadership ability. He spends these APs to activate units in his division. This costs 1 AP, if the unit is within the commander's zone of control. That also depends on leadership. The cost is increased if the unit is outside of the zone of control or is disordered. The cost is decreased if the unit is led by a commander or lieutenant, but cannot go below 1 AP. Each unit can only be activated once per round. Each activated unit performs a movement sequence and then an attack sequence in this order. Side A's human commander is attached to the unit of light infantry. There are optional rules for detaching commander and heroes and treating them as separate units. His zone of command is 2 hexes, I outlined it on the map. It is possible for a commander to delay his actions and let others take their turns first. Commander of Division 3 has leadership 4, so he gets 4 AP for this turn. Any unspent points are wasted. Movement phase has 4 possible actions. Stand fast, the unit stays still but may make melee or missile attacks already. March, move up to the unit's marching speed, change facing in any way, and may make melee or missile attacks already. Hustle, move up to the unit's hustling rate, facing changes cost movement points, may not make attacks. And charge, move up to the unit's charging rate, no facing changes, becomes disordered and may make melee charge attacks. Each unit has a unit move statistic, for example conscripts and militia have 2/4/6, and that means marching speed of 2 hexes, hustle rate of 4 hexes and charge rate of 6 hexes. The commander will spend 1 AP for each unit and activate them to hustle 4 hexes to the north. No attacks can be made. Then the goblin/zombie commander spends his APs to make all 3 units hustle. As you can see, goblins and zombies are much slower, they move 2 hexes. After that, the undead commander activates his units. They decide to split, as the hilly terrain is in front of them. Also, the ghoul unit has lower movement rate than the skeletons. Thus, even though all 3 of them hustled, the ghouls moved only 3 hexes, while the skeletons moved 4 hexes. Keep in mind that the commander is attached to the Ghoul squad, so it would be a good idea for the skeletons not to run too far away, remaining in the commander's zone of control. Dwarves are slow, but not as slow as goblins and zombies. They march 2 hexes forward. Now one of the skeleton units is within 7 hexes of the dwarven crossbowmen, and hence could be attacked by the arbalests. However, arbalests and crossbows can only be used to attack if the unit stood fast in this movement phase, so no attacks happen this turn. Elven cavalry is fast. The horse archers will hustle for the hills because being on an elevated terrain gives a +1 bonus to attack against those on lower terrain. The light cavalry will march forward to protect the archers from a possible attack. The orcs will hustle. Even though their hustling rate is 4 hexes, they have to halt adjacent to the stream. Streams have 3 different types: narrow, medium and wide. This is a medium stream, and it can only be crossed in 3 rounds. First you have to move up to it, then you move into it, and then you may march out of it at a cost of 1 hex of movement. So something like the mods in Heroes of Might and Magic 3. After the orcish commander finished his command phase, the morale phase follows. However, no units were lost in this round, so we just skip it. Now a new round begins, so a new initiative sequence is established. Human conscripts and light infantry will march forward, while the slingers will move aside a bit. They have ranged attacks, well, actually the conscripts and light infantry have them as well, and the friendly units will block the line of sight, only permitting volleying overhead at a penalty. The undead units will move towards the stream and stop, as they cannot cross it yet. The dwarves will march 2 hexes forward, but the crossbowmen will stand fast and attack one of the skeleton units. Ranged attacks not only have to be targeted against units within range and line of sight, but also within the frontal arc of fire. Also, you can only target the closest eligible unit, so even though the ghoul unit is within range and arc of fire, the crossbowmen can only attack the skeletons in front of them. This alone creates many interesting tactical considerations. Crossbowmen have 3 arbalest attacks that hit on 10+. The skeletons have unit AC 2, meaning that I have to roll 12+ on a d20 to hit. I roll 13, 17 and 4, thus 2 attacks hit. Each attack deals 1 UHP of damage. Skeletons have 8 UHP, so now they are at 6 out of 8 UHP. Skeletons are irregular foot units, so they cannot withdraw from missile attacks to reduce damage. However, they become disordered after taking damage. Everyone does. Orcish infantry marches into the stream, while the bowmen hustle to a more favorable firing position. Elven horse archers will stand fast and fire at the orcish bowmen, as they are the closest eligible enemies. Horse archers have 3 composite bow attacks that hit on 9+, and orcish bowmen have unit AC 3. Elevated terrain gives a +1 bonus to attack, so I hit on 11+. I roll 18, 10 and 13, so 2 attacks hit, dealing 2 UHP of damage. Orc bowmen now are at 6 UHP and disordered. The other unit of horse archers performs the same attack routine, rolling 1, 14, 17. First, I rolled a natural 1. This means that I place a depleted token on the elven horse archer's number 2. This reduces the number of missile attacks with this weapon by 1 for the rest of the battle. The other 2 attacks hit, bringing the orcish bowman down to 4 out of 8 UHP. Since it's been reduced to half of its UHP, we have to make a shock roll. Shock roll is a 2d6 roll with a bonus of unit morale, attached officer's morale modifier, -2 for being disordered and -2 for being at 50% UHP. I roll 2d6 plus 0 plus 4 -2 and the result is 8. And now I see that the officer actually is attached to another unit, so this +4 shouldn't be here. On the unit shock table, the result means recoil. The unit retreats 1 hex directly away from the attacker without changing facing. Goblins and zombies march 1 hex toward the stream. Morale phase is still empty, as its requirements haven't been met yet. Round 3 begins with a new initiative phase. Elven horse archers 1 cannot reach any target, so they march 1 hex, then attack the skeletons. They are not on the hills anymore, so they do not get the +1 bonus. 3 composite bow attacks with all the modifiers hit on 11+. I roll 4, 13 and 14. That's 2 damage to the skeletons and they become disordered. Horse archers too can reach the skeletons and are on the elevated ground. However, due to ammunition depletion, they only have 2 attacks that hit on 10+. I roll 9 and 17. Thus the skeleton unit now is at 5 out of 8 HP and disordered. Elven light cavalry will charge at the orcish heavy infantry. Due to charging, the cavalry becomes disordered but gains a +2 to attack rolls, and if it hits with at least 1 lance attack, it deals 1 extra point of damage. Also, charge gives the cavalry 3 bonus hooves attacks that hit at 9+, in addition to 3 lance and shield attacks that hit on 9+. Orcish heavy infantry have unit AC 3, but they also get a -2 penalty to AC due to being in the stream. Thus, all attacks hit on 8+. I deal 3 hits with the lances and 2 hits with the hooves. Thus, the infantry takes 6 hits, 1 bonus hit due to charge, and now is at 2 out of 8 UHP and disordered. The shock roll results in recoil on the opposite bank. Dwarven crossbowmen shoot the skeletons again. That's 3 attacks that hit on 10+, modified by AC 2, hitting on 12+. I roll 10, 10, 17. Thus, that skeleton unit now is at 5 out of 8 UHP. Dwarven heavy infantry will march forward 2 hexes and ready for an attack. This means that they can perform a reaction attack against anyone attacking them or an adjacent friendly unit. Goblin infantry and zombies march into the stream, while goblin slingers march 1 hex southeast and attack the human slingers. Note that they will get a +2 bonus to attack rolls for attacking from the flank. Slings have a range of only 3 hexes. Goblin slingers have 2 sling attacks that hit on 10+. Thus, with a flanking bonus of +2 and the human slingers unit AC of 3, they hit on 11+. I roll 19, 12 and 16, that's 3 hits. Human slingers now are at 3 out of 6 UHP and disordered. They also make a shock roll. This means that the slingers flee. They change facing towards their own battlefield edge and immediately retreat a number of hexes equal to their hustling rate. The human commander spends 3 AP, 1 base, +1 for being outside of zone of control and +1 for being disordered, to force the slingers to regroup and march back to the battle. He only has 1 AP left, so he activates the conscripts and has them charge the goblin infantry. Conscripts have 2 spear attacks that hit on 11+. They get a +2 bonus for charging. Goblin infantry has unit AC 3, but they take a -2 penalty for being in the stream. Thus, conscripts hit on 10+. I roll 13 and 13, that's 2 hits. Goblin infantry is at 4 out of 6 UHP now and disordered. The undead commander doesn't have enough AP to activate all the units. First he activated the ghouls to move into the stream, and then spends 2 AP to activate 1 skeleton unit, removing the disordered condition, to move into the stream and attack the dwarf infantry 1. However, remember the reaction action? The dwarves attack them first. Dwarves have 3 warhammer and shield attacks that hit on 10+. Skeletons have AC 2, penalized by -2 for being in the stream. Thus, the dwarves hit on 10+. I roll 4, 5 and 10, so that's only 1 hit that brings the skeletons to 4 out of 8 UHP and makes them disordered again. Normally this would cause a shock roll, but skeletons are exempt from that. Now the skeletons attack the dwarves. They have 2 sword and shield attacks that hit on 10+. Dwarves have a unit AC of 6, with a +2 bonus from being attacked from the stream. Thus, skeletons hit on 18+. I roll 6 and 7, they fail to deal any damage. The Orcish division is commanded by a general with leadership 6, so they have 6 AP. First, the general activates the bowman for 2 AP, removing their disorder condition. They march 1 hex, change facing, and shoot elven light cavalry. Bowmen have 2 short bow attacks that hit on 10. With all the bonuses and penalties, the bowmen hit on 9+. I roll 8 and 20. That's one hit that brings the cavalry to 9 out of 10 UHP. Orcish heavy infantry is activated for 2 more AP, losing their disorder condition. They march into the stream and attack the cavalry. Orcish heavy infantry have 3 pole arm attacks that hit on 10+. AC3 with a -2 penalty make them hit on 9+. Roll 13, 9 and 20, 3 hits, and cavalry is at 6 out of 10 UHP. Orcish light infantry cannot get out of the stream, but still can attack. They have 2 spear and shield attacks that hit on 10+, with the same situational modifiers. They hit on 9+. I roll 18 and 19, that's 2 more hits, bringing the cavalry down to 4 out of 10 UHP. This triggers a shock roll, and the cavalry flees 8 hexes southward. The human commander spends 2 of his 4 AP to activate the slingers that are still out of range of his zone of control. They march 2 hexes and attack the goblin slingers. 2 sling attacks hit on 11+, and no hits are scored. The conscripts are ordered to attack the goblin infantry, and I actually forgot that the conscripts were supposed to be disordered after the charge. 2 spears result in 2 hits, and the goblins now are at 2 out of 6 UHP. They do a shock roll and roll at 2. This means that the unit is routed and removed from play. That's the first casualty. Human light infantry pivots, marches and attacks the skeletons. 2 short sword and shield attacks result in 1 hit that brings the skeletons down to 3 out of 8 UHP. No shock roll. Now I realize that even though I did remember that the conscripts are disordered, I forgot to subtract 1 additional AP from activating them. Thus the previous phase was illegal, but I'm not going to go back and re-resolve it. Let's roll with a mistake. The crossbowmen cannot target the skeletons as they are threatening dwarven heavy infantry and are threatened by human light infantry. No firing into melee in this game. Instead they are ordered to hustle, +1 AP cost. Dwarven heavy infantry 1 attacks the skeletons, that's 3 warhammer attacks, all hit and skeletons are gone. Dwarven heavy infantry 2 marches to the west and readies for an attack. Orcish infantry marches out of the stream, and the bowmen change facing and shoot the dwarven infantry over the stream, and 2 short bow attacks result in 0 hits. Skeletons are activated for 3 AP, losing their disordered status. They move into the stream and attack the dwarves, however the reaction attack procs first. 3 warhammer attacks deal 3 hits, and the skeletons are now at 2 out of 8 UHP. The skeletons attack and deal 1 hit. The dwarves are now at 7 out of 8 UHP and disordered. Due to being threatened, the ghouls cannot move unless they disengage first. However, they still can change facing to face the light infantry. The ghouls attack, that's 3 claws and bite attacks that deal no damage. Elven commander spends 1 AP to activate the fleeing elven light cavalry, removing its disordered condition, and make them march. Then he spends 2 AP to activate elven horse archers 1 and make them march back to the hills, and then attack orcish heavy infantry. 3 composite bows deal enough damage to destroy the unit. That was a unit with a general attached to it, so we will finally have a morale phase. Division 2 of Side B has lost its commander that was attached to Goblin Light Infantry. Normally, the general appoints a new commander from among the division's unit's lieutenants, but there are no lieutenants in this example. Now I see why they are important. Also, the general was skilled too, thus goblin slingers and zombies cannot become activated at all and will rout soon. So goblins are goblin these nuts. Let's resolve the morale phase. The army's breakpoint is losing 1/3 of its starting units. The general was lost too. Any one of these conditions are enough for a morale roll. The morale roll is 2d6 with a bunch of modifiers from a table based on the current conditions. Every unit in the army must make this roll. As a result, both orcish units were routed, skeletons and zombies are exempt from morale rolls, goblin slingers and ghouls become disordered. I think it's reasonable to finish the demonstration here. Overall, I really like these rules, even though I was using them in the most basic form. No heroes, no magic, etc. There is enough of tactical depth, and I really like the General Commander Lieutenant division. To me, wargaming in a vacuum is boring. In my opinion, wargames become much more engaging when battles are part of a campaign, so the outcome of a battle will affect other battles. Fortunately, there is another book, Domains at War Campaigns, that covers campaign activities using the ACKS rule set. They were updated in ACKS 2, and just like the battle rules, they can be easily adapted to another system. You know that I have GURPS in mind here. Domains at War Battles feels much more engaging than GURPS Mass Combat, even though the rules are not generic. As you could see, the only conversion that you'd have to do to use these rules in your GURPS game would be deriving unit stats from GURPS stats. Alternatively, you could rework the resolution mechanics of Domains at War Battles to be more GURPSy. I will think about what works best, and I'm sure that I will manage to come up with some hack to marry the two systems, because Domains at War Battle would plug a hole that GURPS Mass Combat, even with the Tactical Mass Combat article, just does not fill. I did make some rules mistakes here in this demonstration with morale and some activation costs, but it's fine. So thank you for watching, I will see you next time.